Few machines in science fiction are as memorable as ED-209. With its massive size, overwhelming firepower, and surprisingly awkward mobility, the Enforcement Droid Series 209 became one of the defining icons of the RoboCop universe. Marketed by Omni Consumer Products as the future of law enforcement, ED-209 was supposed to usher in a new era of automated peacekeeping. Instead, the machine became a perfect example of corporate arrogance, prioritizing appearance and contracts over reliability and practicality. Within the world of RoboCop, ED-209 represents OCP's latest attempt to solve Detroit's crime problem. Officially known as the Enforcement Droid Series 209, the machine was designed as a fully autonomous urban pacification platform. OCP envisioned the robot replacing traditional police officers while simultaneously opening the doors to lucrative military contracts. To Dick Jones and the executives behind the project, ED-209 wasn't just a police robot, it was the beginning of an entirely new industry. On paper, the machine seemed unstoppable. The enormous walker was equipped with a frightening arsenal. Its primary weapons consisted of 3 automatic cannons, 2 mounted on the left side and 1 on the right. In addition to its machine guns, the right weapons platform also carried an automatic shotgun and a rocket launcher capable of firing 3 missiles. At close range, ED-209 possessed combat programming that allowed it to physically engage targets, while its sophisticated speech center could issue commands to civilians using a synthesized voice. When damaged or angered, however, the machine emitted strange animal-like cries that only added to its unsettling appearance. Everything seemed ready for OCP's grand unveiling. Standing before the company's executives, Dick Jones proudly introduced ED-209 as the future of law enforcement. Unfortunately, things went horribly wrong almost immediately. During the demonstration, junior executive Mr. Kenny was ordered to participate in a simulated arrest. After being instructed to drop his weapon, Kenny complied, but due to a catastrophic malfunction, ED-209 failed to recognize that he had surrendered. Despite repeated attempts to reassure the machine, he continued issuing commands before suddenly opening fire. What followed was one of the most infamous scenes in cinematic history. As the machine unleashed a relentless barrage, Dr. McNamara and his technicians desperately attempted to regain control. By the time they succeeded, Mr. Kinney had been reduced to little more than a gruesome reminder that the technology was not ready. The disastrous presentation effectively doomed the ED-209 project and led OCP's board to approve a competing proposal, the RoboCop program. Quick side note here, this has always cracked me up. Why on earth did Dick Jones bring that thing into the office fully loaded? They should have just given it like blanks or no ammo. I mean, it literally had the rockets on it and everything. It could have just wiped out OCP's entire board if it malfunctioned. That's always been such a funny thought to me. Anyways, despite the humiliation, Dick Jones refused to abandon his creation. Later, after RoboCop uncovered Jones' relationship with Clarence Boddicker and attempted to arrest him, Jones unleashed an ED-209 inside his office. Murphy found himself hopelessly outgunned as the machine's weapons tore apart the room around him. But while ED-209 excelled at destruction, its designers had overlooked one rather important obstacle: stairs. After managing to escape Jones' office, RoboCop headed down a staircase, and ED-209 attempted to follow. Unfortunately for the machine, its large feet and awkward design made descending stairs nearly impossible. Losing its footing, the robot toppled over and landed helplessly on its back. As the mighty war machine flailed its legs and emitted distressed squeals, Murphy made his escape. In one of the film's most memorable moments, a machine designed to dominate the battlefield was defeated by basic architecture. Believing RoboCop had been destroyed, Dick Jones convinced OCP to continue with the ED-209 project. One unit was stationed outside OCP headquarters as a security measure, but when Alex Murphy returned armed with a Cobra assault cannon taken from Clarence Boddicker's gang, the machine's service life proved to be remarkably short. One well-placed shot from the anti-armor weapon devastated the robot, and a second blast finished it off completely. Remarkably, this wasn't the end of the ED-209 program. Despite its catastrophic demonstration and numerous malfunctions, Attorney General Marcos later approved the 209 series for deployment in 5 American cities, including Detroit. Reports of problems quickly followed. One machine became stuck in a manhole, while another managed to kill a police officer after mistakenly identifying him as a criminal. Even after OCP eventually fell under the control of the Komatsu Corporation, the robots remained in service. Although they were rarely seen patrolling city streets directly, they often served as guards around OCP facilities and sensitive installations. The machine's flaws became even more apparent over time. Despite its overwhelming firepower, ED-209's logic systems were incapable of processing information as efficiently as a human brain. Its massive frame struggled with uneven terrain, and a structural weakness beneath its head dome frequently suffered damage during operations. Perhaps most surprisingly, one of the machine's greatest vulnerabilities came not from heavy weapons, but from computer hackers. Access panels hidden inside the robot's right leg contained serial ports that allowed direct access to its command systems. This weakness would eventually be exploited by Nico Halloran. Using nothing more than her laptop and considerable technical skill, she managed to bypass the machine's security and completely reprogram it. According to Nico, the once fearsome war machine became as loyal as a puppy. The reprogrammed ED-209 assisted the rebels during their assault on Ordnance Depot 7, and later helped them escape pursuing OCP forces. Ironically, one of the most expensive and dangerous products ever developed by OCP could be turned against its creators by a determined hacker. Outside the main timeline, ED-209 will also make appearances in other media. In Mortal Kombat 11, the machine appears alongside RoboCop during several attacks, including his fatal blow and one of his fatalities. Fortnite would later introduce the Leg 209 as a harvesting tool in backbling, while players could unlock a miniature ED-209 emote. But perhaps the most interesting part of ED-209's story lies behind the scenes. According to the filmmakers, ED-209 was never intended to be a genuinely effective machine. In fact, its flaws were completely intentional. The production team envisioned the robot as a satire of corporate greed and low-quality manufacturing. Their idea was that OCP had approached the design process the same way a modern automobile company might approach a new car model. The machine only needed to look impressive enough to secure contracts and convince investors. Whether it actually worked was secondary. Dick Jones himself embodies this philosophy. Throughout the film, he cares less about whether ED-209 can perform its duties and more about the profits and military contracts it could bring. To the filmmakers, the machine was essentially the Ford Pinto of military robotics, a flashy, unreliable product built by executives more interested in appearances than quality. This design philosophy influenced everything about the machine. Features like the decorative grill around the head existed purely because they looked intimidating, not because they served any practical purpose. The idea of using a heavily armed walker for police work was intentionally absurd. As members of the production team later pointed out, it would be like replacing ordinary patrol officers with Abrams tanks or Apache helicopters. Urban policing was never really the point. The police contracts merely served as a stepping stone toward much larger military deals. The ultimate irony, of course, is that Dick Jones eventually placed his trust in the very machine that he had knowingly developed as an inferior product, believing ED-209 to be his ace in the hole against RoboCop. He discovered too late that Murphy, the only OCP product that truly worked as advertised, was more than capable of overcoming his flawed creation. Even in the famous scene in which RoboCop causes ED-209 to destroy one of its own arms contains a bit of movie magic. According to the prop designers, the weapon arms of the model couldn't actually rotate far enough sideways to shoot one another. The effects simply looked good enough on screen that the audience never questioned it. And then there was the machine's voice. While ED-209's growling commands became iconic, few fans realized the voice belonged to executive producer John Davison. To create the machine's more animalistic sounds, the filmmakers combined his voice with recordings of large cats, including tigers and pumas. The result gave ED-209 an almost living quality, making it feel like a wounded predator whenever it was damaged or frightened. Perhaps the most believable aspect of the ED-209 isn't its weapons or artificial intelligence. It's the fact that despite constant failures, deadly accidents, and overwhelming evidence that the machine simply didn't work, people kept buying them anyway. That's ultimately the joke at the heart of ED-209. The machine doesn't succeed because it works, it succeeds because it looks like it should work, and according to the filmmakers, that was exactly the point.